Hey everyone, my name is Coach Omir and welcome to this presentation on how to motivate yourself. So if you've ever struggled with motivation, if you ever struggled to getting yourself to do things that you know you should do, but you just couldn't get yourself to do it, well then this presentation is definitely going to be for you. What we're going to talk about today is really four things. Number one is we're going to talk about the real reason why you can't motivate yourself. I'm going to show you four keys that actually unlock motivation. I'm going to talk about a hidden three-factor secret of motivation. And I'm going to share with you a powerful exercise to follow along and unlock your motivation today. So you'll literally do this exercise with me today. So after the end of the presentation, you will literally feel more motivated to do whatever it is that you're struggling with doing. So before we get into the whole subject, I want to quickly just mention who am I, because some of you may not know me. I just want to introduce myself real quick. So my name is Omir Jalilovic, or Coach Omir. I'm currently based in Austria, in Graz, where Schwarzenegger was born, right? I have a bachelor's degree in economics. If that matters to you, it doesn't to me, but worth a mention. I'm a certified coach to ICF standards, which is International Coaching Federation, as well trained by Robbins Mandanis in strategic intervention. And I've been working as a coach for the past decade. And I had clients in every major country of the world. Well, that doesn't matter as much as the next or the following thing, which is, what do I do, right? Well, my story is that I've struggled with motivation and performance and getting myself to do what I knew I needed to do, but I just couldn't get myself to do it. Well, one day I had an epiphany that led me to discovering the secret to personal success. And today I help people unlock what's stopping them from being at their best and live in alignment with themselves. I believe we have much more inside of us than we are showing and doing, but we're slowed down or even blocked by limitations. Now, I believe that many limits are self-imposed and unconscious, and with the right approach can be easily removed. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. So how to remove some of the limitations that you have within yourself when it comes to motivation. So let's start with the basic premise or the basic problem about motivation. So here's the thing. It's really not about motivation. It is about belief in two things. Number one, it is about your belief of whether or not you're actually worthy of the thing you're trying to get. So some people may say, I'm not motivated enough, but in actuality, they don't feel worthy enough. So if they don't feel worthy enough, they're not going to feel motivated to get it. How can you go and get something that you don't feel like you deserve it? Right? And the second thing, the second basic problem is that your belief is your belief on whether or not you can actually make it happen. So if I am not sure that I can make it happen, if I don't really believe in the idea that if I put myself to something, I can make it happen. If I don't believe that, then I'm not going to be really motivated to go out and try to do something. Because let me ask you a question. If you knew without the slightest shadow of a doubt that if you just did the things you needed to do, that you knew you would succeed, would you still lack motivation? If you just you literally knew. For example, if I asked you right now to stand up and go unlock or lock your front door, how motivated would you feel to do it in terms of how certain are you that you could do it? It's fairly easy. But if I told you, okay, go out and make $1 million, depending on your situation, you may or may not feel as motivated because I'm not really sure where to begin, right? So those are the two problems we're going to be dealing with, or the two beliefs we're going to be dealing with today. We're not going to go at them directly, but that's essentially what we're going to talk about. So let's begin with the key number one, right? So I'm going to share with you four keys. Let's begin with the key number one. The first key I want to share with you is that nobody is going to save you. Now, what I mean by this is that a lot of people have this secret desire that somebody or something will come into their life and finally reveal the path for them, show them what to do and save them, right? So this someone can be someone or something. That can be a specific person, God, luck, life, whatever, right? Universe. And the big idea is that you have to stop having this fantasy and embrace this simple reality. You have to wipe away your tears. You have to stop feeling sorry for yourself. And with your fingers on your hands, start the process. Start the doing. Nobody's going to save you. Nobody's going to come and solve your problems. You have to do it, right? You are 100% alone. Now, I want to tell you a story that builds on this point, a story from my life. You see, for years, I tried to build my business and make my life successful. And after a lot of failed attempts, and I put attempts in quotes because they weren't really attempts, they were kind of like tries, and if even half-cooked tries, right? Well, after a lot of those half-cooked tries, I started thinking, well, I did everything I could and I still didn't succeed. So I will just have to wait it out and wait for someone to come and save me because I tried everything, right? So I waited and my life got worse and worse and I was stuck and I was not moving forward, right? And what's interesting about this is that everyone around me kept telling me to get moving. But I just felt like you don't understand me. I tried everything. It doesn't work. I can't do it, right? So the waiting on something or someone was particularly damaging for me because it instilled a mindset of helplessness and hopelessness in me, right? So I just felt helpless. Like I don't have the power to affect my life. So I felt like somebody's going to come eventually and they're going to show me the way. They're going to save me, right? But then I read this book by David Goggins called Can't Hurt Me. And there was a part in the book where at one point, he describes getting really real with himself. He tells the story of standing in front of a mirror and he shares how he acknowledged the fact that nobody was coming to rescue him. So he realized that if he's going to have a normal and successful life, he's going to have to build it with his own bare hands with the stuff he can do today. So he then shared the story of how he started working out, he got in shape, he got into the SEAL training, and eventually finished it too, right? Now this story woke me up from this trance that I lived in for years, and I realized that I was doing the same thing. I was waiting for someone to come and save me. But in that moment, I realized that nobody was coming, and that if I wanted to, I need to get up and figure it out for myself on my own. Right? So for example, for years, I wanted to build my own website in WordPress. Like when I was building my business, I wanted to build a website in WordPress, but I didn't know how to. And anytime I tried sitting down to learn it, it seemed so complicated and overwhelming. I wasn't a tech guy, so learning how to do things like that felt like, from another planet. Well, this time I just decided to learn it. I went on YouTube, I typed in how to make a WordPress website. I clicked on the first video that popped up, and I just started going along with the video, right? I followed along. And in about 2 weeks, I really mastered how to build WordPress sites. I have to be honest, I think I built the first website in like 2 hours, right? But then in 2 weeks, I got really, really good at it. I got so good that I could like literally sell my services to somebody, right? So here's the thing. It took me 2 weeks to really learn it and master it, but it took me almost 10 years to decide to do it, right? So I checked out that on my list. I checked, okay, building websites. I've done it myself. And then I moved on to the next thing that I needed to learn in order to build a successful business. So I stopped wishing for it and quitting at the first sign of overwhelm and complexity. But I persisted because I simply decided that I'll figure it out. right? So I stopped wishing for someone to come and do it for me and save me, and I took the baton and ran with it. So the lesson here is very, very simple. With what you have, do what you can, right? So do what you can with what you have right now. Right now, with your own two hands. Stop hoping for someone or something to come and save you. You know, if it's a book you need to read, just start reading it, right? If it's more than one, then read more than that one. Do what is necessary to create the thing you want to create and lean on yourself. Understand that nobody's going to save you. If it's to be, it's really up to me. So that's key number one. Nobody's going to save you. And I feel like if you can just embrace this one key, just knowing that, just understanding that can just push you forward because you're not even going to lean on motivation. One of the things that I didn't mention is I don't need motivation when I know nobody's going to come to save me. I just need to do it. I don't need to be motivated. That's why I said that joke in the beginning. You see? Okay, let's go to key number two. Key number two to motivation, to unlocking your motivation, is that your self-image is messing with you. Okay? What I mean by this is that your self-image is your idea of who you think you are. So it's who your parents told you you are, your peers, kids on the block, your teachers, society at large. And once you decide, or once you decided where you fit, you won't really try to change your situation. So if you decided a long time ago that you're a broke loser, then that's who you'll keep being, okay? So my question to you is, who did you decide that you are? Now, it doesn't have to be a broke loser. It can be an average guy or an average woman. It can be somebody who can't finish things, right? So it's about how you see yourself. Now, if you don't know that consciously, just look at your actions. What are they a reflection of? Something that I keep coming back to is you will never do something that is against your true beliefs. So if you can't figure out what your true beliefs are, just look at what you're doing. If you're saying one thing, but you're doing another, then you really believe the thing you are doing. So if you're saying, I really want to stop smoking, I want to stop smoking, but you keep on smoking, you don't really want to stop smoking. You want to keep smoking, right? So a long time ago, I read a book called Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I really recommend you check this book out. It's an older book. I think it was written in the 60s, but then it was republished, and like you can get a copy of this everywhere, literally. And Maxwell Maltz was a cosmetic surgeon, and he made an interesting discovery. He found that some people would come to him for surgery, right, to fix their nose or some other part of the body. And after they had the procedure, they would actually feel different. They'd feel more confident, they would have greater self-esteem, etc., etc. But he also noticed that some people would have the same procedure, but they wouldn't feel any different afterwards. They still felt the same. They still felt unattractive or whatever. And he observed this so many times that he realized that many people have an inner image about how they look, how they are, that a plastic surgery, right, cannot change and will never change. So similarly, we have an idea of who we are in every area of our lives. So when I was working in sales, for example, I never made more than $1,500 a month. And honestly, I'm being generous here, you know. Even though people were regularly making over 5K a month, 10K a month, some were making 15 to 20K a month, including my friends and peers. So why did I only make 1,500? And again, I'm being generous here. It was more like even less than 1,000. Well, it was because my parents never made more than 1,500 a month. Again, this was almost 20 years ago, right? So I had an idea of myself as a person who was coming from a family where nobody ever made more than 1,500 a month, right? So your situation in life is reflected by who you were brought up to be and where you decided you fit in the world. So you could feel a strong connection to your family and think that by succeeding or making a big leap forward, you would betray them in a way, right? And I know this sounds almost unbelievable, but it's very true, right? So if I made more than $1,500 a month, in a weird way, I'd be like betraying. I'd like leave the identity of who we are as a family. It's very weird, but it's very true. So you will never go above or below your idea of who you think you are, where you think you fit, where you fit in, and how much you think you deserve. And if you don't feel like the goal you have is actually something that fits you, then you won't try to make it happen. You won't be motivated to make it happen, if this makes sense, right? So the problem is not motivation, as I said. The problem is that you don't feel like the thing that you want is actually something that fits you, that you deserve it. And even more, sometimes, you'll get close to it and you'll sabotage it. You'll do something to just like knock your process out, right? So your image essentially answers the question of, does this really feel like me? So if that answer is no, it's going to be like in the Cinderella story, which is like, better get home until midnight before your carriage turns into a pumpkin, right? I'm lying. You're going to feel false. You're going to feel like you're playing pretend. And you'll feel this uneasy feeling anytime you try motivating yourself to do it. So if you want to develop more motivation, you have to ask yourself, how do I feel about my goal? How do I feel about the thing that I want to achieve? Look for the beliefs around that and change them. Until you do, you're not really going to feel pumped to do anything. Okay, so let's go to key number 3. Key number 3 is you don't truly believe in your ability to make it happen, right? So if your self-image is your belief in your worth or deservingness, this is more about your ability to make it happen. So when your goals feel too far out and unlike anything you've ever done, you won't really feel motivated to make them happen. Okay? So if you don't feel like you can actually hit your goals, you won't feel very motivated in taking action towards them. So my question is, what would you do differently right now if you really believe that you can get that thing that you want? Whatever it is, if it's more money, if it's a car, if it's finishing school, if you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, knew that you can get it, what would you do differently? Well, one of the things that's preventing us from feeling that way is lack of our belief in our ability to figure things out, right? When you try doing it, you get that response, but I don't know how. Right? Now, the thing is that you can figure anything out, but only if you apply yourself to it. So I'd like you to think of something you've done that you first thought you couldn't do. When you first saw it, you're like, I could never do that. So maybe it was like learning to drive a car. Maybe it was doing something at work. Maybe it was like passing a difficult exam or even ride a bike. I remember in my university, there was this very, very difficult exam in math. And I was like, when I first saw it, I was like, I'll never figure this out. That's just too difficult. Well, I figured it out and I passed the exam, right? So it always feels like you could never learn it, but after you apply yourself, you go through the mistakes, you go through failures, you eventually figure it out, right? And you probably can remember a lot of examples from your life where you didn't know how to do something. You felt like you could never figure it out, and then somehow you did, right? So most of us are afraid of complexity and work. And I want you to remember these two words, complexity and work, okay? Now, if you can be willing to be overwhelmed by complexity at first and not be afraid of putting in the actual work, the actual effort, you can figure out anything. So when you want to figure something out, you're going to first be met with complexity. It's going to look very complicated. It's like, I can never figure this out. So if you don't get spooked by that, if you don't get scared of that immediately, and then you're not afraid of putting in the actual effort, which when I say afraid, you may even be a little bit lazy, or we are all a bit naturally lazy, because like, this is too complex. I'm just lazy. But you're not, because if you're not overwhelmed, if you're not spooked by that overwhelm at first, and you're not afraid to put in the work, you're going to see results very, very quickly. So like I said in the example before, when I talked about the WordPress website, it was complex. I was overwhelmed, but I wasn't spooked by that. I was like, let me just follow along. And I was willing to put in 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, the entire day to figure it out. And I did, right? So when most people face a challenge, they find it complex, the sweat appears on the forehead, and they go, this is too hard. I can never figure this out. And this isn't true, because your brain is a remarkable thing. Whatever you sit with and you put effort in, you figure out eventually. You'll figure it out, okay? And I really want you to understand that you can literally figure out anything. If you can just sit with that thing for 20 minutes when you feel like I could never figure this out. If you just like remove that thought for a moment, remain present with whatever it is that you are trying to do, you're gonna figure it out. Your brain is gonna go to work, right? So again, my example with learning how to build WordPress websites, that I mentioned before. As I said, when I first faced it, I felt overwhelmed. I felt like that was too complex. But as I took it step by step, I managed to learn it. And at first, it really did feel like it's too much. It really did feel like I'll never figure it out. But the effort I put in, the hours of messing with it, simply made me learn it, okay? So whatever goal you have, you can figure it out. You can figure it out, okay? So if only you're not afraid to put in the effort and go through the I have no idea what I'm doing phase. I promise you that phase will pass. Just remember again, think of anything you've done in your past that it was complex at first, but then you figured it out, and you're going to get that confident. So develop the belief in your ability to figure things out. I genuinely believe that I can figure anything out, no matter what you put in front of me. I'll sit with it. If I can do it on my own, I'll go to ChatGPT, I'll go to Google, maybe I'll go and ask somebody, ask an expert, but I'll figure it out. He'll explain it to me and I'll be able to figure it out because of those two things. I'm not afraid of complexity, of the overwhelm of complexity. I'm not afraid to put in the effort, okay? And if you have those two things, you can literally figure anything out. Okay, let's go to key number 4, which I think is the last one, which is you don't have enough and strong enough reasons, okay? That's why you're not motivated, because you don't have enough reasons. That's actually the main point with reasons, okay? Or with motivation. If you have enough reasons, you're gonna feel motivated, okay? If you feel like this has to happen, you're gonna feel motivated. So I want you to imagine a scale inside your head, a scale like this, right? And this scale is measuring the reasons to do something versus the reasons not to do something, right? So on one side you have to do it or don't do it, right? And you're measuring, you're scaling in your mind. So whenever you have more reasons not to do something than you have the reasons to do something, you're not going to feel motivated. Okay? Now this is the entire basis for motivation, right? So if there are specific reasons, if those reasons are strong enough, you'll feel motivated. If the reasons are slim, you're not going to feel motivated. It's as simple as that. Okay? So I mentioned a few books today, but one book that I have to mention is The Procrastination Equation by Steele Pierce, PhD. Okay, you can go and find this book. I recommend you buy it, read it, study it. Okay, read it twice, read it 3 times. It's going to explain a lot of these things that I talk about. So in the book, he talks about 3 different procrastinator factors. Okay, and they are time, which is like I still have time. I still have a lot of time, so I'm not motivated. Number 2, value, which is this thing is not as important to me. And number 3 is expectancy, which is like, what do I expect it to happen? So it's probably not going to work, right? Remember the question I asked in the beginning. What if you actually believed beyond a shadow of a doubt that this is going to work, that you can make it work? How motivated would you feel, right? So let's look at all these three a bit closer. So first one is time. I have enough time, right? So has it ever happened to you that you were waiting to do something until the very last minute? And only when you realized that there was literally no more time, you got very, very motivated, right? So that actually happened to me today. Speaking of which, I had a call that was scheduled, and I was procrastinating on getting to the call until like literally the 1 minute before. And then I was like, okay, I gotta go now. I gotta turn on the Zoom call. And I got on it, right? But sometimes it happens to me. Now, this was my story when I was younger. I would like wait until the last minute of the day to start studying for an exam. And then I'd like kick in gear. And I would learn until like the morning hours, right? Just to be prepared for the exam. But I was procrastinating. I was kicking the can until the very last minute. So the first set of reasons have to do with the amount of time you still have available. So the less time you have, the more motivated you feel. And the more time you have, the less urgent you'll feel about doing it. Now, the second factor is value. Now, if you ever needed to finish an essay for school that you didn't really find that important, that interesting, that valuable, that like, why am I even doing this? Then you experience lack of motivational value, or the motivational value. I find this many times in school. Like kids will say, well, why am I even studying this? This, like, when am I going to use this? And I feel like this is a big part in just motivation in general, right? So are you aware of the importance of something? Is it important to you? And I'm actually going to show you an exercise on how to tip the scale to your advantage. So the less something feels valuable to you, the less motivated you'll feel to do it. The less important it feels, the less motivated you feel to do it. And if you want to raise your motivation, you need to find more reason as to why is something important to you. Okay. The third one and the last one is expectancy. So I know this is going to work, or this is probably not going to work, right? So have you ever tried doing something, but you didn't really believe it was going to work? In my first job, I had this weird experience where I overheard that the boss sometimes fails to pay their employees, and I remember, because I never had that experience of, working and getting paid, I was like, is he going to pay me? Am I just wasting my time here? And I just remember that all of my motivation was just gone, and I became one of the worst employees there because I was just like, I don't feel like, this is going to work. He's not going to pay me at the end. I just don't want to do it, right? Speaking of jobs, I also had a job where it was so boring that I felt like it was so unimportant and I was so unmotivated to do it. So value. I didn't feel like that work was important, like I should be doing it, and I got fired from that work. I think I was filling up shelves in a store. I just felt this is so stupid. I should do something better with my time. Okay, so when it comes to expectancy, the less certain we are about the outcome, the less motivated we'll feel about doing it. And I want you to ask yourself, is your uncertainty coming from the lack of belief that it's going to work, or a lack of belief that you'll be able to make it work? Speaking of the previous point. So we touched upon the certainty in the previous point, not previous. So this serves just as a reminder. So let's go into the exercise, okay? How to get motivated. If you want to get motivated, you have to make the scale tip over. And you do that by finding enough reasons as to why is something important to you until that scale tips over, right? So let's say, for example, you want to motivate yourself to study. Let's see how you would do that. First, you want to make a list of all the things that you will gain if you do it. So, what will you gain if you study? How will your life be easier? Right? Maybe you can see yourself confidently walking into the classroom, confident in your knowledge because you've put in the work, right? Maybe passing the exam will lead you to having a better position in life, having a better job, maybe affording your parents certain things or affording yourself certain things like a car or an apartment, whatever, right? You can imagine a better life for yourself. So paint a very enjoyable picture of how things will be if you learn the material and get to the exam ready, right? So make that list of all the things you can think of. Paint the picture bright and make it very, very appealing and attractive. Now, you want to think of all the bad things that will happen if you don't. Okay? So ask yourself, what will happen if you don't study? What will not learning the material mean for you at the exam? So imagine studying, imagine yourself being at the exam, sweating bullets, regretting the fact that you didn't study, swearing to yourself and to the universe that you'll study next time. And, imagine yourself failing that exam and then having to study all over again and having to experience this pain all over again. So imagine, go even deeper. Imagine yourself having to come home and telling your parents you failed the exam. Imagine the look on your face, the look on your parents' face, that sinking feeling of knowing you failed yourself, that you failed your parents, you failed people that believe in you, right? So make that picture really glum, dark, depressed, sad, right? Make it so it's a scene you never want to experience. And most importantly, make it, really make it real, right? If you don't study, create a realistic scenario that will happen. So if you try to paint yourself an unrealistic scenario that is hard to believe, then again, it's not going to be motivating. Literally, be very realistic with yourself. So the question now, did the scale tip? Do you have more reasons to do something than reasons not to do something? Well, if it didn't, go back and do as many times as you need for the scale to tip over. Stay with it, okay? So really think about what will happen if you do and what will happen if you don't. And most importantly, be real with yourself, right? Make realistic scenarios so that your brain believes it. Really sit with yourself and say, okay, well, I don't feel motivated to do this, but why is this important to do? What will I gain? And what will it cost me if I don't do it? And if you can, just take a sheet of paper, draw a line in the middle, and just on the left side, write down, what will I gain if I do this? And on the other side, write, what will it cost me if I don't do it? And you'll see that there's going to be, again, this is going to happen. The scale is going to start to tip. And you're going to feel more motivated. I promise, if you just do the simple exercise, it doesn't have to take you long. Just take 3 minutes, do the simple exercise. You're going to feel more motivated to do whatever it is that you are struggling to get motivated with. Okay, so let's review, what we talked about. So key number 1 is that nobody's going to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. You are all alone, so get to work. Use your hands. Do what you can with what you have right now, okay? Number 2, your self-image is messing with you. If you don't see yourself having it, you won't really try getting it. You really won't put in a serious attempt in getting it. So if you're really struggling with motivation and can't get yourself to be motivated, ask yourself, maybe you believe something about yourself. Maybe you believe that you don't deserve it. Maybe you don't believe that you really shouldn't be doing this. There's something maybe inside that's holding you back, keeping you from really going for it. Okay. Key number 3, you don't really believe in your ability to make it happen. So the secret is in being willing to put in the work and figure things out, right? You can figure out anything if you only put in the effort. Remember, complexity plus work, right? Don't be afraid, don't get scared of the complexity, and be willing to put in the effort, be willing to put in the work, and you can literally figure out anything. Key number 4, you don't have enough and strong enough reasons to do it. So make a list of reasons to tip that scale. And again, you can pause the video right now and do that exercise as we speak. Okay. Well, cool. We came to the end of the presentation. So I'd like to thank you for watching. Again, my name is Coach Omir. And by the way, if you'd like my help with this, you can sign up for a free session with me at coachomir.com/free session. And in the session, I will lead you through this exact process, through these 4 keys, and I'll help you get motivated about what you want to do, right? So after the call, my promise is, my guarantee is, you will feel substantially, significantly more motivated to do the things that you want to do. And, you won't feel like that glum, I don't really feel like it. You'll just have that drive to go out and make it happen. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Again, go to coachomir.com/free session to schedule a call, and I will talk to you soon. Bye-bye.